Okay, here we go. I'm here with Samir at the Glam Media offices. Hi, Samir.
Hello.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about just the ad industry in general. It's looking pretty bleak out there. What are you seeing, given that you're a significant ad network?
I think overall there is definitely a slowdown in the marketplace, and that has a trickle-down effect. The public markets or the equity markets or even the credit markets are in turmoil. That creates a cascading effect. So Glam and Brash, like all other advertising-based companies, are definitely going to be affected in one way or the other. I think with that said, what we're finding is that unlike the last downturn in 2001, which we had some systemic issues on the internet of dot-coms being a large percentage of the advertising spend, and as they either went away or slowed down, it created a cascading problem for other internet companies, like Yahoo, etc. In this turmoil, the issues are largely outside of the internet, but are affecting the internet. And I think the internet also has evolved now in the last 15 years to be a very, very rich and strong medium. I think it starts at the top, which is given the fact that the internet is a smart medium, and by that I mean the ability to find the target audience in the engagement mode that you'd like, target them by either context or behavior or even time, surpasses any other media we have ever had before in history, print or television. My gut at this time round says that the internet will be affected, but will not be affected as strongly as traditional media, especially television and also print. We're a great example of being able to feel that, because if you look at Glam's growth, not just in audience and reach, but in actually advertising revenues, we have been growing at about the 200% year-over-year growth rate, which, as you know, given your background, are absolutely phenomenal, given the size we are at today. I think in a very strong market externally, that growth rate could have been 300%.
Yeah.
But still, we're talking, order of magnitude faster growth rate in revenue than any company in media at our size or stage. So my gut feeling here is that yes, the market will slow down. There will be specific categories that will not grow or even diminish. But the internet as a percentage will either hold or increase during this downturn.
Now, you as a company, you are giving guarantees. Are you doing that today, continue to give some publishers guarantees? And did some of those guarantees hurt your business? I mean, are you able to sell through as much as you said you were going to be able to?
When we started the business, I liken it to being in the billboards business, where you have to have the billboards, or the theater business, where you actually have to invest in the real estate of the theater before you can be in the distribution of movies business. You're absolutely right. When we started, given we were not known, we had a mixture, always a blend of straight revenue share, and some publishers that were well established had some minimum guarantees from us. By and large, as our business has grown, we've actually, not just recently, but over the last year, have really slowed down on minimum guarantees for many reasons. One, we're fairly well established, and one thing that comes with that is knowing ahead of the time what kind of revenue you might be able to generate for our partner, especially given our position. So with that in mind, the way I would look at it is in our channels that we have been in for a long time, there really have been less and less reasons to do minimum guarantees because we know the business. So the guarantees didn't come from the fact that we simply wanted to switch people. It was not knowing what the business would be. In our new channels, however, we carefully used some minimum guarantees in the last year as we were entering new markets. Clearly we are not in that business at this stage, given there are some unknowns in the marketplace. So I think with very, very few exceptions, Glam is not in the business of minimum guarantees or will not be in the business of minimum guarantees. However, with that said, we have a lot of trust and a very strong community of publishers, given that we've always been very clear and transparent about what the business is, what to expect, and it's visible to them. That makes a big difference.
So you talked about how it is affecting, the ad industry is affecting the publishers out there. Is probably more advertising than there are, or less advertising than the inventory. So how is it affected? Have your sell-throughs dropped? Has CPMs dropped? Can you quantify a little bit about how it's affecting your business, what you're seeing?
I think right now Glam is not seeing an effect specifically in that for several reasons. The first reason is Glam has never been in the remnant display or direct response display marketplace. When we started the company, we did not allow any ad networks to be on Glam or our network. We have not sold hit the monkey kind of ads that you see so prevalent on the web today. Why this is important is we and I personally believe something is backwards on the web, which is this idea of a remnant really came from television. When television started, as you know, there was a movement towards the creation of event-based and prime time, and the definition of prime time followed by day. The rest of the inventory, notably the middle of the night inventory, was termed and deemed remnant. Now, what's really important is television did not start by first filling the remnant inventory and then trying to find the places where prime time would exist. Now, if you look at the web, it is backwards. Most companies start by filling an ad on every page. A great example is social networks, where they even have ads on photo sharing pages or email pages where ads really don't belong. So by Glam starting by saying no ads anywhere, we're going to only place ads where they work for the consumer and for the advertiser.
So what percentage of the pages do you typically cover then?
We actually run at a fairly high standard in the industry of sell-through rates. Typically 40 to 60 are what's considered very high in the premium display business. Of course, those run at 80 to close to 100% in Q4, which is our current quarter, because that's where there's a spike of advertising dollars anyway. But what's really important is that I think there's a lot of problems, systemic issues in the remnant display business today because of what you said. So I think what your premise is right on. It's just in a different market where there's a flood of inventory and a very limited set of advertisers and a diminishing set of advertisers in remnant because financial services organizations are no longer buying advertising in remnant space.
Just a couple of questions about your business in particular. You just had you announced layoffs recently. So how's the morale? And do you think you'll have to do that again? And what does that reduce your efforts in what areas?
As you can imagine, we're a pretty ethical and well-run business. We've obviously have done many businesses in our lifetime. I've seen upturns. I personally have gone through 3 downturns in Silicon Valley. So I think having a management team that has seen business cycles makes you more prepared. I'm sure you can see from the office, this is a sales office. Everybody is out at sales calls as they should be. When you come back here later in the evening, you'll find it absolutely buzzing. This is our New York office. Especially given the fact that we've also done a launch yesterday. So I think in general we've attracted great talent, very passionate, very hardworking, with a lot of positive attitude, and you can feel it when you walk into our companies. We did a small round of layoffs, as we announced. It was about 6 weeks ago. That was, I would say, a combination, that's what we said, a combination of every 6 months we look at our workforce, given we've grown the company very rapidly, and make sure we have people in the places and the channels that we need. In this case, we knew we'd be launching some new channels like Rash, so it was not something we could publicly declare 6 weeks ago. We wanted to make sure we had enough room for the new channels as well. I think with that said, about half of our reason to really look at do we have the right set of people included our belief that we should just be careful given a slowdown. And I feel very badly for the people that are affected because it's always a very personal decision, and we're a company that in our heart cares, and that makes it very hard. However, as you know, 2 weeks later the world changed, and we were one of the first ones to make this decision. I think that ability of Glam to be very fast moving in an environment is one of our skills. I've always said it's not the big that eat the small. It's a saying I learned a long time ago while I was at Apple. It's the fast that eat the slow. So the ability to be prudent, rational, really aware of what the true market conditions are, not to fool yourself as entrepreneurs in terms of where your true position will be is very, very critical at this stage. I think at this stage we're just looking at trying to understand what the market holds for us, and we'll continue to monitor that. But yes, we will change with the times as you saw before, much more rapidly than most companies do.
So last question. You raised about $70 million for the company, right? About that, $70 million?
The last round was $84.6 million.
Okay.
And of that, about $20 million was debt components. We raised about $60 million for the company in equity, yes. Okay.
So what is the future of this company? Are you going to sell it? What happens in 3 years? What's your goal?
I think it's very hard to tell given the current environments. You know, as you know me from the past, if you were to ask me this question of any of the companies I was involved with 7, 15, or 20 years ago, the answer would have been very simple. It would have been, we're building a company for value. We think at some stage of the company, those companies would go public, and or be acquired. I think in this market, as you know well, the public markets are really closed at this time. And building a company specifically for the goal of being public is not in your control. So what we're doing is, given we just entered the top 10 Mediametrics top web properties list, is really focus on building the business, not necessarily with a quick or close exit in mind, but to truly try to see, can we go from top 10 to top 5? How big is this business model really? We are very set on making the company continuously EBITDA profitable starting this quarter. So for us, once you get to that stage where you have a couple of years of profitability behind you, the number of options are always larger. But I think the company has the makings of one of the top new media companies, and that really is the focus right now.
And the revenue you're doing, you're EBITDA profitable now?
Being a private company, as you know, we've not ever directly disclosed our revenue. I think what we do talk about is the growth rate. We've been very upfront about that. And we have said that in our core business, which is defined as our women's business in the U.S., our goal is to be EBITDA profitable this quarter. However, we are choosing to selectively invest in international growth and also, of course, in new channels like the men that we launched yesterday.
Okay. Congratulations and thanks.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here. Good to see you again.